In this video, we are looking at Lesson 7. That one is called Make Inferences and Use Text Evidence. This lesson begins on page 16 of your textbook, whether you're using the hard copy or the digital version. So if you turn with me to page 16, we will look at this skill. And I'm going to look at the example on the middle of the page. Driverless cars will change our lives in many ways. Some people believe that driverless cars will reduce the number of organ donors. About 13% of donated organs are from people who die in car crashes. So, if you draw yourself a nice rectangle, we will set up a mind map for inferences. Let's put in a space for topic and for main idea. And then in this bottom rectangle, let's divide it into thirds. Doesn't have to be exact, but approximately into thirds. So the first thing that I want to write in this mind map is the word topic. And then we have a space for main idea. And then we get to the part about inferences. An inference is made by thinking about what you read, what you know, this is where your life experience comes into play. You take those two things and put them together, and you can form an inference. An inference is an educated guess. Okay. So let's put this to work for us in this passage. Now, they start off by talking about driverless cars, cars that autopilot. They don't need a driver. That's really the main idea here. Driverless cars will change our lives in many ways. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on this part. Main idea. Driverless cars will change our lives in many ways. And I didn't need quite that much space for main idea, but that's okay. We never know. So this is directly stated in the passage. They're talking about how these driverless cars will affect our lives. This is a cause and effect type of structure. So what I read, let's go ahead and get some details, and I'll come back to topic in just a second. Some people believe that driverless cars will reduce the number of organ donors. 13% of donated organs are from people who die in car crashes. So those are two statements that I read here. And I'm just going to use bullet points. It will reduce organ donors. They also tell me this fact that about 13% of donors are from car crashes. So that's 13 out of every 100 donors. That's quite a lot of people. Okay? So what I know about organ donors, my sister just had a liver transplant back in January. So I know that that process is tough. It's hard to find a donor. Donors are hard to find. And I know that from personal experience because we've lived through this situation. I also know that not everyone is a donor. That there may be lots and lots of car crashes, and this is horrible to think about. But not all of those people are going to be donors. So when I take all of that together, and don't forget about the driverless cars. Remember, that's a part that we have to remember we're talking about here. So I'm going to go ahead and add that into this portion of what I read. Just don't forget about the driverless cars. So here's the conclusion, the inference that I come to. Driverless cars, and remember we said this is cause and effect. Driverless cars will reduce car crashes, which is a good thing. So here's the effect. There are fewer car crashes, so there will be fewer donors, fewer organ donors. Now, the author doesn't say this word for word. We have to draw that inference on our own. We have to take what we read and what we know and put that together to get the inference. So this part of my diagram is what I read. This is the yellow stuff I highlighted up there. The what I know is just in my mind. It's my life experience. That's one of the great things about being a learner as an adult. You have lots of life experience that comes into play. So don't forget about that. Use your common sense. Use what you have learned just by living life to come up with these educated guesses. So the topic here, it's not driverless cars. It's not organ donation. It's the relationship between those two. So I'm going to say one downside or negative effect of driverless cars. And if you heard that noise, that was my text message thing. I'm going to turn that down. I'm sorry. I thought I had already muted that. Okay, so we have drawn an inference here about the impacts of driverless cars. Okay, let's try one more down here at the bottom. And I think I'll just let this video run. I'll tell you what, I'm actually going to stop this video and trim this paragraph up a little. So I'll be back with you in the next clip.